I go by Zero from WUSC-FM in HQ in Columbia, and I'm here with Nick Rowland, aka Super Future.
What's going on? Two Knicks in the building.
I know we've been talking about doing this for a long time. We've been talking since like March, since you guys did the White Mule stop in Columbia
Yeah,
on my birthday.
that was your birthday.
Yeah, man.
Good time. That like literally the last show of our tour before it all kind of went to a big grinding. COVID
Yeah.
all.
And it was funny too, because a lot of people, at least a lot of my friend group, we were all up in the air about whether or not to go, just because we just saw you guys at Okeechobee. And we're like, oh wow, this is next week. So
I know. We kind of because it's in the same region. We kind of got lucky there and double dipped in like a cool market because the Southeast is full of a lot of friends who appreciate the tunes, and Okeechobee, like we definitely had like a good momentum going there, and then it was weird to have it just kind of like be like breaks.
yeah, right.
But it was all so much fun, man.
Yeah, no, and I think that was definitely one of the bigger shows that we had in Columbia in the recent times in March. So it was definitely a fun time for all of us as well. All right, well, more recently, October was a huge month for you. You put out your remix for Medusa, played a Unity live stream, as well as played at Revive Wellness Retreat in Myrtle Beach. What are some of the highlights for you for some of these releases and events?
It's been kind of a crazy time in terms of momentum and keeping it streamlined, because I'm also like in the middle of moving and everything. Well, ever since that Unity stream, I started to slow down and not take as many offers to do the streams or shows, and simply because we were just buying a house and getting ready to get a puppy. So it's been kind of weird balancing life, like, and I feel like people can totally relate to like trying to balance like their endeavors with everything that's changing in their life in this time period. But all of those were definitely huge highlights. I would say getting the email from Grizz's team was kind of like a moment where I was like, okay, this is, among all of the craziness that's happening, there's still a lot of good that's coming my way. So I'm thankful for all the good looks and like the hard work's paying off during the quarantine time. And that remix, I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of these past few months, because it actually came out while I was at Revive. So I kind of like had this moment where I was like stacking really good things right there, and I got to debut it for the first time there, and I couldn't play it anywhere in any streams, and I was trying to be like a good boy for the Grizz team and not screw that up, you know. That was probably that is the most high profile like opportunity for a remix I've had. So I was just like going by the book completely, and these like quarantine streams or like live streams I was doing on my socials, I was just like, I really want to play this remix, man, but I can't let it. And it was really cool having also our friend Notlo do it too, because I know that the whole idea behind that anthem is like supposed to be a pride anthem. It was a huge deal back in June, and I was not expecting to be able to have like a remix opportunity, but Recno told me they were coming, and I was like, oh, well, they're for sure all going to pick like gay artists or LGBTQ plus people. And I was like not expecting the opportunity, but Recno was like, what would you make a case for you being able to make a good remix for? Because I guess Grizz was asking artists to submit that along with like who was getting submitted by their team. And I was like, well, I just had a tour that kind of taught me all about what it means to be a really big ally of the LGBTQ movement, and I saw what that song meant to the whole community, because it was a huge hit and something that was just a huge point of pride for the pride community, because it was just so fun and all about their life, and just making Pride Month cool. And that's exactly what Grizz and Recno are heroes for doing. So any chance I had to add some kind of component to that huge movement that I now appreciate more than ever was a real honor.
For sure.
And being able to play it at Revive was kind of like the big climactic release of me being able to like hold it in, and finally I can just show everyone live on the stage. And that was the first outdoor show I did since the beginning of COVID, because I've been getting offers for like indoor shows, and that's not really what I want to promote. So I was just holding up a bunch of heat for that event, and then I got to make that like one of the pinnacle moments. So those two things stacked together were both like major highlights for the quarantine so far since tour.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm so glad I got to catch that set, man. You
Yeah,
could definitely tell that, like, some things were building up and you were waiting to play some stuff. And we heard some things that we had never heard before. So I was super stoked about it.
yeah, dude, that's the best part about any shows that can happen safely is all the artists have these libraries that are just like it's like there's 30 new songs in the chamber ready to go for all the sets, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see where things, I mean, obviously things are getting, a little dicey again, but like I'm excited to see where things still keep on going with the music scene because so many other artists and up and coming talents are beginning to get more of that exposure and really blossom and let things manifest.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think people are getting creative, like the revive thing in general. The people behind that, and when I got to just kind of hang out with the people in charge of that, we got some drinks, and they told me all it was having a little bit of a vision and calling the hotel and seeing what they thought. And they were like, we can kind of use a smaller case study that they did for like a country show, and it went really well. And then they were like, all right, we'll try it for what you're doing, get all your boxes checked with the CDC, and we'll do our part. And it's a moneymaker for both entities. Like people get to see the shows, even if it's a lower capacity. They're making money off tickets. Artists are making money. Hotels are making money. All in kind of this nice, safe package that went off. Like I think it went off pretty well. I think that they definitely made their money at least, and I'm wondering because of like the acts they had to pull in there if they did how the profit was. But like after meeting with them after, he was like it was good. So I think it's kind of a green light for them to keep doing more. So I'm excited to see how that lane starts to be explored in terms of shows.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Yeah, so I mean, from working with Electric Hawk to Spicy Boys to Bass Rush and, founding your own collective, who are some of the favorite people you've worked with, and what do you enjoy most about working with these different labels and collectives to kind of expand your catalog?
That's a fun question always, because every so often I take a look back and I'm like, there's a whole different collaboration style with all these different people, and my ability to work with people is getting better because I haven't been able to like work well with people in the past because I'm such a perfectionist. But meeting people who kind of teach you things along the way, I would say like Miso in the Spicy Boys. I think I gotta say that my favorite ones were recently Recno for sure, just because we have like a really good chemistry. But we can touch on that in a bit too. But like reaching back to even a couple of years past, like the collective I started, that it's kind of standing still now because I want to just focus more on myself. But it's still existing in Grand Rapids. Samsara is full of friends who I trying to pull out of the DJ scene in that area that really wasn't much of a organized scene when I first got there in like 2015. And I kind of found my favorite producers in the area who didn't really have like a home in a collective per se when all the collectives started to form. I was like, let's do some trap, future bass, a little bit of bass music and see what happens. Even some rap. But yeah, the Samsara Family Collective is just kind of like my home area. Well, Grand Rapids isn't technically my home anymore, but it was kind of where my home in the music scene was when I first started out. And working with those guys is always special. But I've since explored a lot of other areas, as you said, like Spicy Boys. All those guys are just, they're a bunch of nerds, man. It's fun to work with other nerds because we kind of understand each other. And even upcoming stuff like people in Wakan, collaborations there. It's been cool to see the professionalism of everyone I work with increase more and more, but it's also like when you get to those bigger leagues, like the whole process in the back end and making sure you have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted is like they don't skip anything. We have to have a whole 20 email thread to make sure all the samples are in check when we use like little samples when we're producing. So it's more fun to work with higher profile people, but I'm trying to like relish the opportunities when it's not really as much of a big deal because it's all just kind of like what we want and not what a label wants. So I'm kind of learning the transitional balance there.
Gotcha.
Been fun to work with all of them though. I love working with nerdy people because I'm one myself.
I feel like you kind of have to be a nerd to be making electronic music, right?
I think so, but I met all different types. There's some, I'm trying not to like put people in a box, but like you can tell the more social people are better at like their social media or their vlogging, and they're kind of the promotional side. That's where they're really coming into their own, and that is almost equally important as the music in this day and age, because you can't have music if you're not going to use your voice to put it out there. Well, you can, but it's just not going to go as far as you want it to.
Right.
So people who are the producers, who are just like all like the A1 top level producers, maybe they just got a bunch of, you know, classes and they kind of refine their craft. I've met people like that who think they should get all the everything that comes with the whole package of being like a producer right now, and then they can't promote their music because they don't know how to be a person on the internet and like be lively with it and find creative ways to promote. So you get the whole spectrum, and the nerds that know how to be social on social media, it's kind of like that perfect equilibrium.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed that too, like with a lot of the artists that have like a sense of humor when it comes with their brand and whatever else, like it takes them so much further than just playing out music.
It's a authenticity and sense of humor take you a long way.
Well, I mean, one of the things that you're most well known for is your mashups and remixes from like Gucci Technology with Schlump, and is it Krayshawn?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and as well as a remix of Ned Flanders with Bags. Does your craft, when you're making these remixes at all, like does it differ from when you're making originals, or like do you kind of have the same thought process and creative thinking when you make these kind of things?
It's a good question. I honestly didn't think I would be a remixing type of producer, so it's been a weird, fun lane to explore, and I think Rekno showed me how effective that could be, because he is one of the kings or queens, we'll call him, as of mashups, because he showed people how fun that can be if you make it really sassy and like sexy and fun, even on top of bass music. And meeting him and working with him and touring with him has shown me that is super powerful, and a little bit of ability to latch on. Say you're going with a bunch of friends to a show, and maybe it's like one of their two of them, it's like their first time seeing a bass music show. They're probably going to be just bopping their head around when they hear like your favorite song, because they don't really know the genre that well. But as soon as they hear a little bit of that like rap music or like old throwback like Britney Spears or anything, you name it, Megan Thee Stallion, literally anything that can bring them back to like what they know, maybe in the top 40 or rap world, they're gonna be in that like 110%, and they'll be like, oh, this is the good issue you're talking about. You're like, they just acapella work and remix work is becoming a more popular thing again, and it like Bassnectar did it back in the day a lot, and that's what made him get really popular in some levels. So people who are doing that are really tying together a bunch of different friend groups and making a lot of fun experiences for people. Like I said, Rekno is like one of my favorite examples. So when I start to make my music, but also I'm exposed to someone like him who's doing that really well, I'll be writing a song. It'll be like I hear this moment where I can hear a popular rap song on top of it. If I can go find like the acapella for it and work it in my own cool way, it's almost like, all right, game over. This is going to be something that everyone loves. So the Schlump song, like the Schlump edit, the Ned Flanders one is just that confirmed a lot for me, because people really liked that one. And as I said before, I didn't think I was going to be a remixing type of person, but this already got me excited to do like the ATA mix with Rekno, kind of have like a bunch of new ones that I'm not really sharing until we debut them at that point in time. I got this really cool one of Megan Thee Stallion. There's one with some older trap favorites, that like stuff that Skrillex used to play and made popular. I'm kind of like revitalizing those in a really cool freeform bass way. So that's something that I think people will be excited about once they hear that mix.
I love that. And I feel like it's funny too, thinking back to like when trap was really popular and how it kind of died off. So like I really want to see like, I don't know, I've been like waiting for something like that to be like revitalized and like kind of like reformed into something new, you know?
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, dude. I was so heavy into the trap movement, and any kind of rebirth that you can kind of give that genre, even if it's just reusing lyrics and kind of having a similar flow, people will be so nostalgic with it, and I think it's fun for everybody. So I'm trying to do a little bit more, and I'm trying to write a lot of my own personal stuff at the same time.
Word. And I mean, like, on the topic of your creative process, I know we already talked a lot about Recno in this interview already, but how did you guys kind of discover your ideal sound and chemistry for your mixes and sets? Like, you guys have such a, you know, an obvious fantastic relationship with each other that like comes through music and just in terms of friendship, like you see it on stage. Like, did you guys just kind of like meet up together one day, or like you guys send each other music?
So I didn't really know him that well, but I knew of him because he is from the same state as I am in Michigan, and I know that he was really into the bass center community, and so he kind of made a lot of good connections and friends there, and was working. You know, he could DJ really well for almost as long as people knew him as a DJ, and he would like kind of work his way through those circles. But I wasn't like a diehard bass nectar like ambassador family type of like person. I loved his music, but we kind of met where those two things crossed when I guess you can kind of imagine like you have group chats with all your friends in different like circles, maybe in different like platform DMs and stuff. We got put together in one, just people adding us to different groups who appreciate different styles of music, and I saw him kind of complaining about something where he didn't understand, and it was after his Deja Vu set where he kind of gained a lot of DJing popularity there, and he was talking about some kind of thing that local artists deal with where they're just kind of at odds with promoters and they don't know how to work through like the logistics of doing shows and selling tickets, and he's kind of new to that. So I decided to call him one day out of the blue because I have experience and like I've had harder times with like where promoters are just like pieces of crap to you as an artist, and I was like, here's what I really think, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes as I did. And I hadn't heard his voice before, and I was like, oh my gosh, he has like such a high voice. So everything about him feels like gay. So, and I didn't even ask him that question, but then he brought it up, and I was like, okay, cool. So we got to be friends after just kind of having a nice conversation about like maneuvering ways around like local shows as a local producer and artist. And I think he appreciated that, and I liked him just, you know, because he was from Michigan and a really nice guy. And I think we kept in touch. This was in like early 2019. Yeah. And he ended up being able to replace somebody on a show that was being held in my city. So it's my manager actually who booked him. So this was our first all meeting together. My manager was the one who built the tour, so this all was kind of like everything was aligning at one point in time, and I finally saw him play. I was like, wow, I've never heard or even dreamed of anyone mixing in so much like Britney Spears and like Elise and all of these, and like Cassie and Missy Elliott all into a set where they're just on top of all this fire bass music. And I was like, I didn't really know that this is what I wanted to do, but I've had an inkling that this would work before, and I saw him do it, so I was like, I gotta meet the guy. So we got to meet at that show, and then from that point on, I kind of was like, all right, well, this side of me that I knew should be expressed with like sassy lyrics on bass music. He had mentioned that he was kind of like, you know, one day he like likes to write down raps, but I didn't really like dig into that anymore because he didn't rap on any songs he's had it for like previously. So I sent him something, and for anyone who's familiar with the song "Bout Me," I was actually trying to write a remix of, I think this is why I'm hot, and that's why it sounds so similar to it. And so I had that melody going. I was like, okay, cool, I nailed the synth, but I had this other cool idea where I could take this, and it started to like, I just wrote this whole idea from like 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. One of those nights where it just all really flows. And I sent him the beat, and he was like, honey, this is the one. I think I can put some rap on. And I was like, that's exactly what I wanted you to say, because like I saw what you did at that show and it was magical. So let's try to like push this. And so he came over, and I already had a couple of like songs in the works that could, you know, also lend itself well to that same vibe. And one of them was Signal. And that was probably one of the most popular ones on our EP. So he came through and showed me some other stuff that he'd been working on with his brother. And then we were like instantly clicking. Everything was working. He's in my house, like videotaping the whole experience. I'm like, all right, shit. I don't know. I'm not like a vlogger type or anything, but he's showing me like what personality can do for you on socials. And I'm like, this is great because I don't really do this for myself. So it helped me learn what to do just to be a more open person. And all the while we're writing and it's flowing and he's rapping and I have experience with recording vocals and everything. He has none. But he has all these great ideas. He's like, this is one that I've had since like middle school when I just wanted to really express myself in this way. But like, I want, didn't have the platform. Or he was like, this is something like that me and Charles the First were having some like faded party, like rapping it back in the back room or the green room or something. And I was like, check. We'll write this all down and I'm going to work this into all the music. So he goes back home for a little while and I'm like, I just inserted all these dope raps he had into this music. And all of a sudden we were just kind of like, I think we have something here. And at that point we hadn't played it out anywhere, but there was this one party where he got an earlier set time than I did. And it was after a festival in Detroit. We played an after party with Mersive together. And by the time I was playing, the room was packed because the festival had ended. So I was like, Brandon, get on top of this, get in front of the stage. And he's like, oh, I know what you're talking about. Like, get on top of the speakers in the front room. And so he just hopped on top of all of those big bass boss speakers. And I was like, let this go, like, let it rip. And just the first time he ever rapped in public on stage, and they ate it up, man. It was like one of those perfect moments you'll never forget. And it was his first time rapping. So he was just like sweating, crying. And I was like, we were freaking out together because that was the first time we'd ever debuted that. And every show then on we had in Michigan, I was like, you got to come down to do this, perform it with me, or I'll do it with you. And I think the chemistry from there, where I was able to give him an opportunity to like let those raps out, and he is a fantastic lyricist, and I got to hear it first. So I was like, yes, more lyrics. And look where it's taken him. It's amazing. So he's given a lot of other people in the bass community kind of like a breath of fresh air in that regard. And I feel lucky that I was able to be one of his main producers, or his first one for those songs. And it's taking us into some really cool places, and not somewhere that I really thought my brand was going, because I'm more of kind of like a highly conscious, metaphysical, spiritual, like type of bass sounds person. But this gave me an avenue to like express myself in that way. So it was like lock and key. We worked it together, and people saw it and they loved it. They loved him. That helped me out. And also I think Okeechobee was that time where people got to kind of like see us for what we really were, and that was our first back-to-back ever. So
really? Oh my God.
We wrote that.
Didn't you guys have Hypernatural tour dates before that?
Yeah. Okay.
So you guys didn't do back-to-backs in those shows?
We did a couple. So that's a good point. We had a couple of times where we did some back-to-back, like unscheduled, and we would do it. But that was the first back-to-back that we got asked to do on a bill together.
Okay. Yeah.
We had to kind of like come up with how we're going to do it. So we're at Okeechobee, and I was like, we're having fun. We're doing what we want to do each day, but we haven't written anything. So why don't we just take the best parts of our sets and try to merge them together and see where we can fill in the blanks. And we're doing this into the wee hours of the morning after going and see all the shows at Okeechobee. So we wrote that thing in like hours. Some of it was freestyle and some of it was like designed to be that way, but it flowed so well. And I'm happy that we've kind of started to build like a little bit of a sound around it, and other people want a piece of it. So we're going to be making more EPs.
Yeah, and I only heard good things, like in terms of responding to that set at Okeechobee. That was like, I mean, like you said, that was the first time you guys were on a bill together for it. And I feel like people came expecting, to get a little bit of both of you guys, and they got the full experience kind of thing.
Yeah, man. And I think I was scared for a second because we were up against Alice in Wonderland, but then she couldn't come because I think like the international kind of COVID scare was starting to surface. So she didn't make it. And then they put Subtronics right in that slot. And I was like, oh man, we're going to be going up against Jesse. And so he came over afterwards. I saw him later that night, and he was like, dude, you guys had a hole in that crowd because it wasn't as big as I expected. And he was just, that was when we got to kind of meet, and he had heard some of my music and what we had done together. So it was like, he's really cool. I haven't had like tons of times to talk with him, but when I have, he's always like very genuine and like he'll tell you what he loves about what you're doing. And I gotta admit, I'm not a rhythm guy, but when I saw his Wookdontronics thing, is that what it's called, Wookdontronics?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool.
His kind of wonkier stuff, yeah.
Pretty dope.
Dude, yeah. I mean, Okeechobee, we were headed back from our campsite because we went to go re-up on water and everything and just kind of like relax for a bit because we've been going nonstop. And we were on our way to go see Subtronics, and it was just me and one other guy because like our whole rest of the group was already there. Yeah. And we were like walking by the Insidia stage, and I was like, wait a second, who's about to go on? He's like, Rectum Super Future. I'm like, ooh, do you guys want to go see for a little bit? He's like, I want to go see Subtronics. So we started to walk, and then I heard it, and I was like, no, I'm going over there. And he's like, yeah, sure. And then we just stayed the whole time. We never didn't go see any of Subtronics. It was such a good time. We had such a great fun time.
Thank you. The location of that and how cool it looks with all that fire was kind of helpful because they would hear these moments of just like some weird stuff, and all of a sudden like
just pyro everywhere.
I didn't know what it was going to be like because it was kind of cold that night, but it's like this feeling where it's almost like you turn the heat on the shower too much for like 2 seconds and it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But it was fine.
That's so funny, man. All right, well, getting back to you and to kind of bring it all around, I know that you're sitting on a whole bunch of unreleased music, including collabs with Ravenscoon and Mize. At least those are the ones that I've heard teased and or talked about. What are some of the projects you're working on that you're most excited about and what fans can look forward to?
There's so many different lanes that I'm trying to like play with right now. So I'm not really excited for one more than the other, and I'm excited to try all of them. I'm one of those people who just really can't sit on one style. And what my timeline's looking like is, and you mentioned the Ravenscoon collab, we're about to announce that we're dropping that tomorrow. We're dropping it on Black Friday, so we're going to announce it tomorrow. And we're going to do some fun things with Electric Hawk around that. That one's been in the works for over a year, so Paul and I are really excited. We're friends and have talked a lot, and I've helped him out with some music. He's helped me out with some of mine. So I know that more will be coming from us, but that one's it's basically about to be like doing bad dish that feels good.
Yeah.
And it's not a drug reference, don't worry, but you'll see when the content comes around. It's kind of like doing Hood Rat. Oh, I can't even say the name. Bad stuff.
Bad stuff.
So that one's gonna be fun, and we're kind of just like surprising people with like the 1 week out announcement and the other stuff that's in the pipeline for this year. And thank goodness I had like a library to just kind of keep me afloat because of this moving, and training a puppy has kept me away from a lot of writing. The catalog that I've had has allowed me to kind of keep that sustained. And the next thing after that is one of my first, it's my collab with Mize is coming out after that. So we got it on a label that I'm sure would make sense for where he's at, but I can't talk about it yet. And
super secret stuff.
It's one of the newer ones that whole group has created, and that's kind of where I want to end up, as it were. So I'm really excited to be tapped into that community now, and I've loved everything that they've done, and Mize and I really gelled well in this one. That's probably the collab with Mize and I is called Satori, which it's a Buddhist term that means instant enlightenment, and it's kind of where you reach that plane when it's been like either induced by yourself or something else, and you instantly have that field of vision where you're like, I'm in the enlightenment mode. And that's exactly what I get the feeling of when I hear that song. So that's the song that Mize and I are doing is a really good depiction of what I want my end sound to be like, because I'm having fun exploring a lot of like the fun trap stuff, the bass stuff, and like experimenting, but I want to bring that experimental sound and future bass like type of feeling to a point where it's very like impactful, meaningful, and kind of has like a little bit of a spiritual like kind of intonation, where it makes you want to find out more about like yourself and what you psychedelically, whether it's like that or just like turning inward and feeling good about life. And that's kind of where I want I have a whole EP of that type of stuff because I'm trying to invoke good feelings in people lately, whether it's cathartic, whether it's like turning inward, like finding that like inner peace. That's what I'm trying to do with my next bit of work. And I'm trying to make it fun for people, because there's an element that you have to have. Like you can't just make meditation music and expect people to like have a good time to it. So my journey is going to be kind of marrying those two, like the fun of bass with like the beauty and the inner feelings of something that can invoke that type of feeling. So I'm writing an EP to submit to that same label and trying to kind of explore where the intersection of those feelings are. And I think it sounds really cool. So when the Mize collab comes out, you'll have a good understanding of like where my next type of sound is headed.
Yeah, and I've heard of them a few live stream mixes, and it's definitely, I can tell that it's that integration of different genres and styles, but still has that kind of cohesive nature to it. So
yeah,
I'm super excited about it.
But it is, I'm very proud of it. And there's a lot more of that coming up. Miso and I are doing a VIP at the Chromatos.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that one's fun too. And I'm still gonna write EPs that are full of like the heavy stuff, I promise. And then you can expect more from Rekno and I. But the stuff that's coming out in 2020 yet is definitely some of my favorite. So I'm gonna kind of like hit the ground running in a good way with the next year in terms of like a direction, which I've never really had before, because I keep trying so many other things. But I think people will get a good understanding of like what I'm headed for next. I'm trying to build a very original sound.
I'm excited for you, and I'm sure everybody's excited to see that. I mean, we're at the end here. Do you have any final thoughts or plugs you'd like to say?
Well, just that, and I said this in my Revibe set, I feel like it's worth noting these days that it's important to cherish the times that you can have with friends nowadays, just because it's becoming less and less of a like something that we can even do. And there's a lot of interesting kind of oppressive energies happening, whether it's because of the pandemic or the government or anything, whether it's just personal life. It's all kind of coming crashing down on people. So my parting words are always going to be something that I'd want people to feel, that you still have a lot of ability to be empowered. Cherish your time with your friends, cherish your time with your music, find a way to be happy in these weird times, because we will get to the end of it. But I'm hoping that what I can do with my craft will help everyone feel happy, whether it's to dance for fun or to dance to like experience more about yourself psychedelically, spiritually. I just want people to know that that's kind of my mission now, to help invoke those good feelings and that they should be cherished.